200,000 to 400,000 veterans who are homeless. This makes no sense. And this angers me to no end, and that's why I have stepped up to run for office. Because this government makes no more sense, and we need to get sensibility into our government. Thank you all for showing up here today, and I hope that you all make it to the voting booth on November 4th.
Thank you, Ruth. I'm going to have a couple of other people talk, but he just reminded me of something else. Right now in Rhode Island, we have, what do we have, 50,000 people unemployed in Rhode Island, and I'm not going to get onto the economy, but it just so happens, you can check on this, 20,000, the U.S. Census Bureau and the Pew Hispanic Center estimate that there are between 35 and 40,000 illegal aliens residing in Rhode Island. 20,000 of them have jobs, folks. 20,000 of them have jobs. Why? Why do we allow that? Why can't we enforce our laws? And I'm going to have Lee.
I just want to say that we're a nation of immigrants, but we're also a nation of laws. And if we don't follow through with that, we are actually the greatest country on the face of this earth. We have liberties and freedoms that other countries don't offer to their citizens. And that's why people try to come here. But if they come here illegally and subvert that system, we will no longer be the greatest country on the face of this earth. And that's why we have to take a stand here and stop this from happening. And I stand with Terry and Karen and Drew and Carolyn and Yvette and everybody who's here, Mom and Leo, and everyone who's here standing up for this is what we need to do to ensure that this country remains the greatest country on the face of this earth and our freedoms are protected.
Thank you, Leanne. I'm going to ask John Carnavale to say a few words in just a second. To the people from the folks from the press, does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask before?
Yeah, you said it makes sense that people would come from where they had mothers and fathers in a bad country to come here to live behind fences and stuff. What they're doing, they think it makes sense.
Did you ask any?
Can I ask you to step in front of the microphone?
Did you ask any of them, Jim? That,
I haven't been down there.
No, I know, but that's it. I'm being facetious, maybe, but I don't think that those kids are happy that they're all jammed in those places and they're under a Red Cross blanket and they don't know what's going to happen to them in the next 5 minutes. I can't imagine that they think that that's better off than being with their own mother and father, even though the conditions that they're in.
They came. Their parents went.
The parents sent them. The parents sent them, and if people don't want to agree with me that this is some sort of an agenda, then you tell me how a woman with 2 small children makes it 1,600 miles across the center of Mexico and makes it all the way to the United States with their 2 children. That doesn't make any sense. I know everyone say that they're sent with the coyotes, but how do they do that without the complicit Mexican government doing it, and without, in my opinion, our government being complicit in that also? 1,600 miles across the Mexico, and check Mexico's immigration laws. They were shooting people. They were shooting people coming across the Guatemalan border 5 years ago if they tried to sneak into Mexico. Now that they're letting them over, they said 52,000 children were in those centers down there originally. 52,000 children, not including the adults. How do they all come across the border if the rules are so strict in Mexico? Yes, Steve, I can tell you that.
You said at the outset you were told that hundreds of immigrant children were coming. You understand 400 children are coming.
Yes.
The gentleman said 600. Where do you understand these from? Who tells you?
Well, we would.
Can you be specific?
Well, I can't identify the person, but the person happens to be an attorney that works in the system, who asked not to be identified.
What?
The federal government. I should just say the federal government.
So
And
you have-
he said this is unconfirmed, which was on Facebook, but we were told that by a very reliable source. That's all I can say. That there were in excess of 400 people going to be dropped off in Rhode Island sometime today. So I don't know. Today. And well, I think
Yes.
Yeah, I think the governor knows about that a long time ahead of time. But I mean, you know, it's like you divulging your source. I can't tell you who the person is. I'll try to get that person to come forward and say I told you. But I mean, well, we don't know. We don't, right now, as we speak, they could be being dropped off in the C-130 at Quonset Base down in North Kingstown. Pull one of those big C-130s right in the front door of a hangar, let them all off the plane, and put them on buses at the other end of the hangar and distribute them wherever Chafee's staff has found room for them. Well, I don't have specific evidence of that, but if we did, we wouldn't be here. We'd be there. We would be there. And believe me when I tell you, if there was a bus coming out of there, and I knew it was all illegal alien children coming from the border, I'd lay down in front of the bus. Because I think that that's going to be the destruction of the state of Rhode Island. Never mind the country. When we look around, everybody knows, and I get angry sometimes with people that say they don't want to talk about the social issues. But I defy anybody to tell me what segment of the economy in Rhode Island illegal immigration does not adversely affect. There isn't any segment of the economy. So illegal immigration really isn't just a social issue. It's also a real economic issue. And the people that have all these estimates from everywhere, that how many children do we have in Rhode Island? And I know it's federal law that we have to accept the children of illegal aliens. Any child residing on U.S. soil is entitled to a K-12 education. But one of the things that I say is, if that's the law, that's fine. We have to go by the law. Those children are here. What do we do about more coming in? I've been saying that for 5 years. Yeah, it's come to fruition now. We're possibly going to have these children dropped off in the state of Rhode Island sometime in the near future. I don't know if it'll happen today or not, but in the near future we're going to have all these children dropped off, and nobody's putting limits on it. It just doesn't make any sense to me that it's going to overwhelm the school system. Just take, well, I live in Lincoln. We think we have a pretty good school system in Lincoln. There are 24 English language learners in the Lincoln school system. They can't afford those 24 English language learners that they have now. But we have to address it. Every election we have to address it. Every budget we have to address it. What are they going to do if 10 more illegal alien children are dropped off to the Lincoln school system? How much more money is that going to cost? Where's the money going to come from? The taxpayers are up in arms now about how much they're paying. And ask it. Reporters all know this too. Any community in the state of Rhode Island, the majority of their taxes go to pay for the school system. So how can we just say we're not going to have any checks and balances? We're going to just allow as many people as Obama wants to send us to come in. Something just has to be done. It can't be allowed to have us, in my opinion, be overrun by people from some other country. And believe me, I'm a compassionate guy. I have 5 children, I have 9 grandchildren, I have 2 great-grandsons. I worry about those kids. What's going to happen to those kids? You have no idea what would happen to Terry Gorman if my great-grandsons went to a school and they had to go in and sit next to some kids that came here from the border that had only a cursory examination before they went to that school, and my great-grandsons got ill. The reporters would be writing about me for months in the paper about what I would do if those kids got sick because of that. But yes, one more gentleman here I'd like to talk. John Carnevale. Thank you, Terry. If you pardon my correction of you, Terry, my name is Carnevale with an L. Although my mother's sister married a Carnevale, so I am related to some Carnevales. And Terry, they do not pronounce my. I want to thank each and every one of you for engaging what I call the exercise of your political citizenship. You obviously recognize that it is our duty to call attention to our government when our government is engaged in practices with which we do not agree, or with which are not in the best interest of each and every one of us. I don't want to repeat what everyone else has said, so I'm going to take a path that is somewhat different. 40 years ago, I was a regulatory administrator for child welfare services. So I have my roots in child welfare services. And I promulgated laws and I testified before this General Assembly to ensure that those laws would be passed to protect our children. Recently, you may have read that there have been a number of editorial pieces, commentaries, calling into question whether or not we are adequately serving the children that are part of our child welfare system. In fact, one person, I think probably as early as last week, even proposed the abolishment of the Department for Children, Youth, and Families. Why am I saying this? Well, I can't help but remember when I used to hear my grandmother, an immigrant to this country, often say that charity begins at home. We have to take care of those children who many people are expressing concern about in the child welfare system. And so it disheartens me that we may not be doing as good a job as we ought to be doing for them and by them, and we're about to take on a challenge which I don't believe we are adequately prepared for.
Right. You don't have the money.
And that's what I want to communicate. And once again, I thank you for being here and exercising your political citizenship. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Yeah. Right.
Those are all things. I'll go back again to Obama. When the Senate passed this great, wonderful law to solve all the problems about immigration reform and all that, S-844, close the border. That was the first thing in there. Close the border. So now we can get the bill passed because we're going to close the border. First thing, before we do anything else, close the border. Do you know what the bill actually stated? The Department of Homeland Security has 6 months to develop a policy about how to close the border. And it will be up to the discretion of the Director of Homeland Security, Janet Napolitano at the time. Up to her discretion, how much of a fence would be built on the border. That's what the bill actually says. Go look at it yourself. S-844. That's what it said about the border. It said all of these things about illegal immigrants would have to pay fines. They would have to go to the back of the line. There's so many things that they couldn't jump in front of people that were here, legal immigrants with green cards attempted to become citizens. Every single one of those things that was in that bill, right after they said it, provided a waiver to that particular part of the bill. There was a waiver for everything that was in that bill. So Obama is, I don't know, in my opinion, you can tell I get upset about this. I mean, I always get emotional, but I think Obama's trying to ruin this country. I truly believe he's trying to ruin this country. And, what? My wife and I have been married for 50 years. And I saw her cry a couple of times during those 50 years. It probably was about something that I did that I wasn't supposed to do. But just the other day, I told Karen this, I told some other people this. I can't believe my wife is sitting in our family room watching Fox News and she's crying like somebody that didn't get to go to the prom as a teenager. And she was crying because her country is disappearing in front of her eyes. And what she said was, we have Congress, and that comes right down to Rhode Island, you know, in our legislature. But we have a Congress that's supposed to keep check on this guy. And he's doing whatever he pleases. And he just continues to do whatever he pleases. And to see her sitting there crying over that, this is a serious situation. I have somebody else I'd like to talk from the Rhode Island taxpayers, Anchor Rising, Rhode Island Freedom and Prosperity. You know.
Thank you so much, everybody. To start with, I want to echo or repeat the name of RILE, Rhode Islanders for Immigration Law Enforcement. And if we were simply enforcing our laws, this would not be a problem.
Right.
We talk about a broken immigration system that's not broken, it's simply not being enforced.
Right.
On the local level, to echo what John Carlovale said, we have limited resources in the state, but we have very high taxes. All of our budgets are maxed out. The state budget is in the red, and an unimaginable number, and none of the local budgets have a lot of surpluses. Today, Governor Chafee, when he was asked once again, were you contacted by the federal government to accept the children? He said, not formally. So what does that mean? But I can tell you that if children come here, it is not going to be a temporary situation, and it will be very formal when we all write those checks to the state and local taxes to pay for the extra cost of those children coming here. It is just not acceptable that they come here. We cannot afford them. My concluding remark would be that it only exacerbates the problem. The reason that people are coming here is because we are not sending them back. We are not enforcing our laws. So if we continue to accept them, that only leads to a perpetual wave of illegal immigration, and that simply does not solve the problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Monique. The pertinent fact is 2/3 of the people coming across the border aren't women and children. They're males. And they're males that, I told you before, are coming across the border telling the Border Patrol agents that they're members of MS-13. And we continually let that happen. Where are the people? Where is Congress? You know, there should be some congressmen somewhere that are against this. Very few of them ever speak out. We don't stand a chance in Rhode Island. And, you know, I can get in trouble for this, and there could be repercussions, but I really don't care much anymore. But in Rhode Island, these are the names of the people that we have. We have Representative Cicilline.
Oh, get rid of him.
We have Representative Langevin.
Worse.
We have Senator Greed and Senator Outhouse. And they happen to be probably the biggest supporters in Congress of Mr. Obama. Now, if you're not nervous about all of this, there's so many things I could talk till Christmas. But watching a debate the other day, we have 4 Democratic candidates for governor that are all in favor of giving driver's licenses to illegal aliens. We have 2 Republican candidates, which kind of makes me a little angry, that are in favor of in-state tuition. One just changed his stance because he claims now, which thankfully, that he's in favor of in-state tuition for illegal aliens that are in the process of becoming citizens. In the process of becoming citizens. So that's a big difference between just giving it to, you know, illegal aliens. But
Who is it?
while we're on that fact, you see people here, some people have signs that say no in-state tuition for illegal aliens.
Right.
We have a policy here in Rhode Island. A policy, P-O-L-I-C-Y. A policy, not a law. Federal law, 8 U.S.C. 1621, states that no state shall provide illegal aliens with in-state tuition unless it's done via the passage of a law.
Right.
Via the passage of a law. We have a policy here that currently, right now as we speak, is against federal law. And how that policy got put in is when Governor Chafee took over, he was all in favor of illegal aliens. I tried to meet with him. I just wanted to have a man-to-man talk. That's what I asked for. 10 minutes, just so he could hear my side of the story. No adversarial position, no raising my voice or anything like that. Just let him hear my side of the story. He refused 15 different requests. He refused. But he met with every illegal alien advocate group in the state of Rhode Island. Juan Garcia from Immigrants United, you know that. He met with all of them. And if you read the paper today, this new process, he's met with all the illegal alien advocates about this new issue. So, you know, what does that tell you? But what happened was, the governor, in the first year in office, he replaced 11 out of 13 members of the Rhode Island Board of Higher Education. He replaced with his picks. And then Ryle, and thank you for the members of Ryle that are here, we've testified so many times, it's incredible here about in-state tuition and driver's licenses and all of that. But E-Verify, I just lost my train of thought, I'm sorry. We testified so many times up here, we prevented. That's the thing that Ryle has to hang its hat on. I know most of the people, even here in the audience, would like to come to a rally today and Monday, see the law changed. But we can't get things done that quickly. But what I like to think is that in all the time we've been in existence, we've been Ryle for 8 years now. Every year when we come to this State House, there are on average 12 bills that are to benefit illegal aliens introduced by our legislators. You heard me right, to benefit illegal aliens. And in 8 years, not one of those bills has passed. So, and I attribute that to Ryle and people that support Ryle. And we're trying to do that again. But just let me finish up on that education thing. A state representative, Grace Diaz, and a state senator, Juan Pachado, and an immigration attorney, Roberto Gonzalez, got together and they went to Eva Mancuso, who was the government affairs representative on the Rhode Island Board of Higher Education, and they pleaded their case to her. She in turn pleaded that case to the entire Board of Higher Education. 11 new members appointed by Chafee right after he got elected. And mysteriously, folks, the policy got put in. Not voted in, the policy got put in. And that's where we're up against right now. And it's a scary thought that all of those people are in favor of in-state tuition, driver's licenses for illegal aliens. 2 candidates for Secretary of State are in favor of driver's licenses for illegal aliens and want to see voter ID get repealed. One candidate for lieutenant governor is against, well, he isn't now, he changed his mind. I wonder why he changed his mind, but he came out and made the statement that he was against E-Verify because it penalized people with brown skin. I was told that to my face by Senator Teresa Piper-Weed also, that the reason she was against E-Verify because it penalized people with brown skin. And I was told by another illustrious senator in the state of Rhode Island that the reason, I'll tell you how he said it. It's like meeting with a mafia boss. The reason I'm against that E-Verify stuff is because it prevents people from getting jobs.
No kidding.
I said, Senator, I beg to differ with you. In order for E-Verify to be put in, the person has to have a job already. It's after the fact that E-Verify goes in, not before the person is hired. The person is hired, they're put to work, the company sends the information, the I-9 information, off to Homeland Security and Social Security. If it matches and everything's okay, it's fine. If it doesn't, they get back a non-conforming notice. They notify the employee all the time he's still working. They notify the employee that it come back non-conforming. The employee has 8 days to get a hold of Social Security and tell them that he disagrees with that determination. From that day on, he maintains his job until such time as Social Security and Homeland Security make a final determination whether or not that person was allowed to work. So senators, I mean, when they're voting on these things, I have to tell you, they don't know what they're doing. They don't. Somebody tells them something and they vote on it, and say, and they'll tell them, don't forget next week my bill's coming up. I'm voting for yours today. I'll vote for that bill next week that you're putting in. And you know, I could tell you stories like that for the rest of the day. But getting back to this illegal immigration, what are we going to do if all of a sudden, mysteriously, 400 folks show up here that are illegal aliens, that somehow they have to be immunized, somehow they have to be put in schools? There was a woman on one of the big shows the other day that from Lowell, Massachusetts. She's a superintendent of schools in Lowell, Massachusetts. In the last 5 years, she's had 1,000 pupil increase in her school population. All of that 1,000 person increase is attributable to one village in Guatemala. The children are from 8 to 16 years old. The majority, well, none of them speak English. The majority of them, this is this woman's words, not Terry Gorman, the majority of them not only don't speak English, they don't speak Spanish either. They speak a dialect from a village that they come from in Guatemala. Most of them are totally illiterate. And they're in the schools in Lowell, Massachusetts, killing the Lowell, Massachusetts school system. And the law says we have to educate those children. And let me tell you how insidious it is with in-state tuition. We're functioning right now, in-state tuition is a policy, but we're treating it like it's a law. They're not entitled to that. We're required to provide an education for any child living on U.S. soil, K through 12. What's the most popular? I wish the press was still here. What's the most popular thing you see nowadays that's going to straighten out all our education system? Early childhood learning programs. Early childhood learning programs. We have, right now, today, in the state of Rhode Island, according to Kids Count, we have 5,400 non-English speaking students under the age of 5 in the state of Rhode Island. And we're striving to get all of them early childhood learning programs. How are we going to do that? How are we going to do that? When we look at some of the daycare centers, we all know the abuses with the daycare centers. Deborah Gist would like to see those people have some sort of a certification to be like substitute teachers or something that are working in a daycare center. We unionize the daycare workers now in Rhode Island. Why is that? Look at the majority of where those daycare workers come from in the state of Rhode Island. The majority of the children that they're taking care of. You know, it's just a tremendous burden. And I'm so happy that as many folks showed up today. I would have been happier with a lot more, of course, but it's something that has to be said. I was so glad all the stations were here. But we'll see how they put it on the news tonight, you know, or at noontime. But let me just tell you another thing. This about how the news works. There was a thing in Lincoln, Rhode Island, the other day. A lady called a talk show and said that she saw buses at the senior center in Lincoln dropping off pregnant women and children and young men. Well, I heard that. Now, I can't imagine. I live in Lincoln. This can't be happening here. I was in my garden. I ran from my garden, got my keys, and I drove to the Lincoln Housing Authority. You would not believe the people that were at that place. You would not believe it. And I called John DePietro and I said, you got to get somebody out here. Somebody has to see this. I don't know where these people are from or anything, but you got to see it. There's so many people. It looked like they were going to a Patriots game. You know how they walk up Route 1? That's they were walking on Front Street like that. It was absolutely incredible. Well, Gene Valicenti came out there, and of course, you know, he disagrees. He doesn't agree with what I have to say for the most part. But he went in and talked to the people at the center. And this is 10:30 in the morning. His report was on the radio. 10:30 in the morning, he told John DePietro that the woman told him that from opening till then, there had been 500 to 600 people pick up applications for Section 8 housing. So it wasn't illegal aliens from the border or anything, and it was for Section 8 housing, so it really wasn't to do with a lot of immigration problems. But that was at 10:30 in the morning. I left there